I'm Forrest Griffin.
Brian Caraway.
And Lisa Tate.
What's up, guys? This is Joseph Benavidez, UFC Flyweight.
Hi, this is Greg Jackson, and you're listening to It's MMAzing, and that is an amazing pun.
Get it? Like MMA, but amazing? MMAzing.
Radio.
Welcome to It's MMAzing Radio. I am your host, Dr. Law. With me, as always, DJ Mark.
What's up?
Also joining me this week, Kid Presentable.
How you doing, fellas?
No Lavender Gooms this week. Actually saw him at the airport about 6 hours ago. He has a longer flight than I do, folks, coming in from Las Vegas, and he, needs to get some sleep, because God knows we didn't get a lot of that these past few days hanging out. Yeah. So he's back next week. Kind of a light week in terms of MMA news. I find it strange that there's no Memorial Day card. It probably was the case last year too, but I do remember Memorial Day and 4th of July were big UFC card weeks. We went and saw Weidman and Weidman versus Mousasi, Ronda, Alexis Davis. We went to that card. I remember we went to the McGregor Mendez fight. That was also that was an Independence Day one. So I don't know. It's weird. It's not like there aren't people in Las Vegas, because let me tell you, there are a lot of people in Las Vegas. My Wednesday flight at noon to Las Vegas was packed. Wednesday at noon. Packed.
Well, they haven't done a live audience in Vegas yet, right? Wasn't it?
That's McGregor.
Florida. That's McGregor.
That's gonna be McGregor. I think that because let me tell you, by the way, we called UFC Apex. We saw the UFC Apex. It's really nice. We saw the PI. It's a giant building. And we called because we were seeing if they would let us go. We wanted to be I'm going to be we all have we're vaccinated. The president of the company may not be vaccinated. We are. We want to go. They have a voicemail that nobody returns calls from at the UFC Apex.
Shame.
Yeah. So we would have. I would have been the asshole yelling for Rob Font to chill, man, chill. Hands up. Let's ride this out. We got money on the line, baby. Okay. Yeah, we're going to talk about that card. Biggest one of Rob Font's career. Other big stuff coming out of that card. We'll talk about that. Talk about a little MMA news, which from what I can tell is just that Diego Sanchez has reached a point in this cycle of him with questionable people where he is now sick of said questionable person, and he brushes them aside. So Fabia shouldn't feel too special, because that happens to everybody. Eventually, Diego...
It almost just seems like the public made that decision for him. He's like, look at, I like you turning me upside down and punching me in the head, but I'm getting so much bad publicity here. I gotta let you go.
Is it me? Am I that out of touch? No, it is the public that is wrong. All right. By the way, went to the Las Vegas Fight Shop. I feel it's somehow gotten smaller every time I be there. I'm
sure in-person retail has been really thriving.
Yeah, exactly. Almost bought an Austin 316 shirt for no reason. Just seemed like a good choice. Okay. Cody Garbrandt, Rob Font. Rob Font went out there, fought the best fight of his career, and the biggest win of his career right there.
Yeah, that's my guy, right? I think when we were breaking it down last week, I obviously said is the best version of Cody is kind of a bad matchup for Rob Font, right? Because he's really quick, has tremendous hand speed, has killer power. And for reasons we can't be sure of, right? We can only speculate. We didn't really get the best version of Cody. And so what instead we saw was the best version of Rob Font, because he was better at everything. His movement was better. His feints were better. His side to side, his combos were really there. Cody was kind of gassed after 2 rounds, pretty bad there too. We kind of was dancing around it, but severe COVID case, right? What have we seen in professional athletes? I mentioned Jason Tatum. The guy uses an inhaler now, having never had any asthma related issues in the world. So to see that his cardio was down wasn't totally unexpected. It kind of made sense when you put the dots together. But Font, the story of this fight was his jab. I think, it's funny reading the breakdowns. I forget who I was reading. I forget if it was on Bloody Elbow or if it was just some other journalist, but they're like, seems to happen every 2-3 years in MMA where someone just wins a fight with a jab. And then people are like, oh yeah, that's a really good striking technique. When is this going to take over the sport? We've seen it with GSP. We did recently see it with Kamaru Usman, showed a really killer jab. And Font, he is a long rangy fighter at this weight class. He had a good height discrepancy, a good reach discrepancy on Cody, but that jab kept him at bay all night. Whether it was something COVID, whether it was something rusty, we didn't see the hand speed combos from Cody like we normally do. We saw a lot of big winging power punches, and he was getting a lot of air. He did connect on his fair share, Bob, because you said, when you have money on the other guy, you get nervous with every single strike they took. But
when you're on the farther leg of your 3-fight parlay and it's all gone gravy up until this point, you're like, come on, Robbie. Come on, Rob. I started getting real familiar with him. Come on, my man, Rob. Come on, Robbie. Come on.
But I mean, yeah, he weathered all of them well. I don't recall him ever being truly rocked or in danger. I know that it was 2 50-45s and a 48-47.
Well, I think they gave the first because the first was close.
There were some takedowns early for Cody, yeah.
And then the fifth, I guess they gave the Cody too because Cody at that point was like, "Well, I'm losing. I got to go for what I have left here." But I thought that was that was not a great scorecard, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just thought basically I'm just making the point. I thought it was a pretty clear Rob Font. He didn't get the finish, but it's one of those things where sometimes it's better when they go to decision because you get to really show some stuff. And that's what I took away from Rob. He just had really great motion, really great combos. Like I said, that utilization of the jab, he did get taken down early, but from that point on, he did scramble back to his feet a couple times. He used he had a good, I think it was a Kimura he used to sweep it over in one of the rounds. So he just showed really great defensive awareness on the ground. Mark could break down things better technically than me, but I know you went to me just because Rob Font has kind of been the Kohan guy, been chatting up for a while. But yeah, he had the fight of his career. And I think after the fight, he was realistic. He's like, I'll take on the winner of TJ and Sandhagen. Because it seems like Aljo is going to be on the shelf with an injury for a little bit, right? So that's going to push back that Peter Yan title fight.
He had the neck surgery, right? But it wasn't like it wasn't like broken, right? He's out for like 5 months. They said 6 months, is it or something?
It's one of those things, Bobby. He just wants to hold that belt a little bit longer.
These are the rankings right now, man. My man Aljo Sterling, the undisputed, unquestioned, definitely the best bantamweight in the world, champion, followed by Peter. Goddamn, what a dumb knee. God, the stupidest knee ever. Peter Yan. Cody Sandhagen is at 2, Rob Font at 3, Cody was 4, I don't know if these are updated. Aldo, Moraes, Edgar, Munoz, Cruz, I don't even see TJ on there. Dana White seemed to imply if TJ wins, he might get a title shot. This was before TJ got hurt and they had to move this fight. I think they're saying it's going to be a 5-rounder. Which that's a tough get, man. 2 years of not fighting. And the reason you got suspended is because you were taking a drug that helped your cardio. Woo! And we're gonna make you go 5 rounds? They might as well do it in Mexico. Let's really stack the deck here. Yeah, big win for Rob Font. If he's gonna fight the winner of that fight, it makes a lot of sense. Sounds like a lot of fun, especially, the striking matchup we could see. Marcus, Carla Esparza, Yao Jianan. Tell me if I'm exaggerating here, but I feel like Carla really exposed her with showing a real lack of ground game. I'm not even saying like lack of takedown defense, just on the ground and inability to figure out what to do. And not diminish what Carla did out there. Carla hasn't looked as good, I don't think, since she was running through that tournament to become champion. But the gap there on the ground was massive. What'd you think? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it was pretty much a classic Carla Esparza type of performance that we've expected from her. Heavy on the wrestling, a lot of really good ground control, top control. She was able to get past the guard multiple times, get into side mount, and it's ultimately where she did most of her damage and ultimately won the fight. What really helped was, she was getting in side mount and staying there quite frequently in the first, but when you're flat on the opponent, basically your hips are tucked to the ground, it's hard for the opponent to escape, to shrimp, to get back to side mount, but it's also hard for the person on top to generate a lot of power and do a lot of damage. So it wasn't until Carla got in north-south position and started threatening with a Kimura that she was able to kind of sit up on Jan a little bit more. And once she did that, Jan was able to scramble. She was obviously threatening with a Kimura and potentially straight armbar. So she did scramble. In the scramble, Carla was able to kind of get like a side saddle, side mount on her for the last like 10 seconds or so and landed a super big elbow that ultimately I think contributed to her finishing the fight the second round. Opened up a really nasty cut that was leaking quite a bit. In the second round, just copy paste of what she did in the first, wait for that moment to expose herself to get a shot in. The takedown in the first was, Carla really had to push for that. There was basically 3 different attempts that she tried. I think she tried for like a single and then went to a double. She had to chain her takedowns to get it down. In the second round, it was much easier. And once she did, I don't quite think she got a crucifix, but she got
a crucifix ultimately. There was a crucifix towards the end.
She finished it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the ending was, and I think this is where the cut made such a big factor. It was just one of those things where Jan just couldn't escape. She was just getting hit. These punches weren't like super devastating, but I think with the blood factoring in, there being a lot of blood, unanswered blows, the referee just had to stop it after so many unanswered shots. So yeah, it was a classic performance from Carla. That's right in her wheelhouse, is just wrestling, top control. And, I think she got not lucky, but it was very fortunate she was able to get a scramble that led into a big cut, because I think without the cut, the referee might have made it go on a little bit longer, but I
think some of the referee was just being like, this is not going to get better. This is what we are. We all recognize what's happening here. Mm-hmm. Stefan, the current strawweight rankings after Rose Namajunas: Weili, Joanna, Jan. Again, I don't think this has been updated. Carla's the number 1 contender, isn't she?
It seems to be. I did see a comment from Dana where he spoke on it, and he was just like, I don't know. He's like, it's either Carla or a rematch with Weili. And it's not that Weili necessarily deserves it, but,
we can sell it.
It's a sellable fight, I guess. That's what kills Carla, right? There's not a lot of people who are really going to be clamoring for her. She's not particularly beloved, though she got a finish here. She doesn't typically get a finish, right?
Yeah, I thought we were going.
Grinding wrestling style doesn't do favors to people with fans.
Yeah, I thought we were going to decision. Honestly, once you got her down, I'm like, all right, I can check back in beginning of each round, see if she gets her down. Okay, I'll be back. I think she deserves it, but deserve doesn't mean anything in this sport. I mean, not sure it ever has, to be honest. But she's won like a few. She's strung a few together now, hasn't she? This is not like one win.
This is her fifth.
Yeah, and it makes sense because she also has an early victory over Rose, which is a storyline in itself, right? Was she got Rose early, So the storyline is there, and she's absolutely deserving. All I'm saying is I heard Dana did make a statement this week, and he was kind of wishy-washy on committing it to her. So can't be certain until
Dana's like, look, I'm running Rose versus Communists from now on. Those are the shows we're running. And Carla knocked this one out. We still got the other Chinese fighter. We're just unless we lie and tell people Carla's from Venezuela, this is not gonna fly. We need to say, better red than dead on every goddamn thing from now on. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything about that Weili Rose fight means there should be a rematch. Obviously, then we take out external factors. Makes sense. Edmund Shabazian. I don't get this, Mark, where we had to wait. This kid, we saw a giant gap in where, I feel we didn't learn anything in this one, and we're still giving this kid fighters that are way above where he's at right now. Like, even when the fight started, I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, this guy had a real problem with Derek Brunson, and we're going to give him Jack Hermansson, and it's been a year. Maybe we got to, build this 23-year-old back up. And I guess he said he didn't want that, but I'm not sure what we got out of this fight, to be honest.
Yeah, Edmund had a good first round. Mm-hmm. I think Jack did a good job with his guard. He kept his guard up high. He was not allowing Edmund to, sneak in that uppercut, which he's caught a lot of people with. He was very aware of the left high kick. And then, in the second and third round, when he was able to really establish getting him down, I think at that point, I think Edmund's biggest flaws are that, the gas tank is really set to go hard for a first round. And when that doesn't really pan out, things tend to get a little softer. You know, his takedown defense gets a little softer. His escapes from the bottom weren't as dynamic. I think when he loses that, fresh stamina, he doesn't really have much to go back in the tank. And to give Jack Hermansson credit, he has extremely good top control. And, once he gets a guy down there that is tired, he can put on, pretty good ground and pound. So, I mean, I think Edmund on the bottom was doing some good things and was defending himself well, but it wasn't enough. I think stylistically, it was kind of a tough matchup for him. And there's still a lot of promise in him, but yeah, I mean, maybe it's time for him to fight someone
I know,
more.
like he said, he didn't want to like just pick up. He's like, no, I want to get challenged. I don't want to just pick up a paycheck. And I'm like, well, like, I mean, Steph, I know we're coming off of Charles Oliveira's 30-fight odyssey of being a bunch of different places and being at the very bottom and being rising up to champion. So we're not going to write this kid off, but we got to at least like, you got to put your guys in. I mean, I feel we just watched the same fight again that he had before. You know what I mean?
I'm going to write this kid off.
Well, I mean, I know you don't like where he coaches, where he's
Yeah, no, but with a specific caveat. He needs a different camp. Like, I'm going to take this to a quick political comparison because I know their favorite thing to hear about is politics, but who was one of the biggest winners of the Trump presidency? It was George W. Bush. Why? Because history looks kinder on him now after we saw what things could be. And recently I saw that comment with, we'll talk about him in a minute, but due to Josh Fabia's odyssey with Diego Sanchez, suddenly Edmund Tarverdyan is not the most just terrible punchline of a joke that can possibly be, but he is a punchline of a coach to me, because what is the same of all their fighters? You can say this about Ronda too, until things really fell apart. And you can tell when Travis, what's his last name? Travis Brown went over there. Edmund fighters, he's not an incompetent coach, right? He has credentials as a boxing coach. His fighters have good offense. They are all front runners with major defensive deficiencies. When Travis Brown went there, he became eminently more hittable. Ronda, once it was exposed her stand-up a little bit, she was really, really hittable. Same thing with Edmund, is once that front running falls apart, Tarverdyan does not have the coaching chops to improve this kid's game. So until he finds a new camp, I will write him off, because I don't think his teachers are capable of teaching him the things he needs to get better at, It's not just age. It's not just, like level of opponent, because he got wrestled to death by Hermansson, who is a qualified grappler, but watching his come up, he was outboxing guys. He wasn't wrestling everyone to death. That's basically it's not that he's bad at it, but it's not his A game. If everything is going to his plan, that's not what he resorts to, So if he's going to be controlled by that level guys, not even the guys like Brunson, right? There's no shame in being wrestled by him. He's a wrestler by nature, So I just have, like I said with last week, it's the Star Wars thing. I move for a vote of no confidence until this kid chooses another camp. There's physical tools there, right? And so when you want to make the Oliveira comparison of a guy who comes in the UFC real young and gets improves, but he needs the coaching and the development, right? Because
absolutely,
Oliveira is someone who panned out. We see a lot of guys who don't pan out.
Absolutely. All right. I mean, let's just talk about the money. I won money on those 3 fights, but let me tell you where I did not make money. 5'9" Barnett taking on 6'5" Ben Rothwell. Marcus, our dude Barnett did not have 3 rounds of energy.
Yeah, Chris Barnett's been a guy I've had my eye on outside of the UFC for a while. Because a lot of it has to do exactly with what you said, his stature of being 5'9", and I think even back when he was fighting it was some Korean organization. I don't even know if it was, because it wasn't like ONE FC. I can't even remember what it was called.
Was it? It wasn't Road, whatever the Road one?
I think it was. It was Road FC.
Yeah.
For a short, stocky, heavy guy, he can be very dynamic. Throwing a lot of like high head kicks, spinning back fists, spinning kicks, which we saw some of that. He always just seemed like an action type of fighter who always brought it to, have an exciting performance. I guess this was a fight on short notice. I did not know about it. I think until you, Bobby, said like I think you said you lost a bet on the fat guy. And I still didn't look it up then. And then later, I think I saw it was Chris Barnett, and I was like, oh shit, I didn't know this guy was fighting in the UFC. So I guess I don't know who Big Ben was supposed to fight, but Chris Barnett was like a late replacement.
I had a 5-minute conversation about my picks with the guy at the Paris Sportsbook because he's a big MMA fan. And I was just like, he's like, you going Font? I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, Cody coming off of that COVID. I don't know what's going to happen. He's like, that's a good call. Good pick there. He's like, why are you picking Barnett? I'm like, he's fat and short. And the guy's like, all right, no problem.
Like, not such a great pick there.
He's like, it's not part of your parlay, right? I'm like, nope. He's like, good choice.
And the guy was like, in his head, like, I thought this kid knew something. Like, I thought this kid understood the sport.
But to Ben's credit, I mean, he's a really
he hit that go-go choke, right? Was it the go-go choke again?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were calling it a go-go choke. I mean, I've heard it as like a 10-finger choke, because it's really it's kind of like a guillotine, but you don't really have the throat underneath the forearm. It's more that you've clasped your hands underneath the throat, and sometimes you see guys kind of pull a hide guard. This time he was kind of just in the sprawl position, and then Barnett tried to like spin out of it, which I think just made it worse. But to Chris's, unfortunate, it was a short notice fight. Stylistically, it was going to be a really tough fight for him because Ben's just one of these guys that has really proven himself in the UFC against some of the legends of the sport, that he can be a really tough out. His stand-up can be somewhat rudimentary, but especially with a guy like Barnett that was constantly dipping his head and throwing overhands, like uppercuts are kind of wide open, and that's something that Ben utilizes really well. And then we've also seen Ben, choke out some of the best submission guys in the world, like Josh Barnett, kind of with a similar choke. So the outcome wasn't too surprising, I guess, at the end of the day. It was just disappointing that, I guess when it's all said and done, I do hope they give Chris Barnett another crack against someone less of a veteran, someone of that stature of Ben, who was, careening at points to be a title contender, and to fight someone that maybe came off of, Dana White's Contender Series. Cause I think that is more in line with where Chris Barnett's skills lie. But at this point too, I don't know, it might just be that haircut not being super flattering. He looks a little older than I remember when I first saw him. And maybe his best days are past, but I hope he gets another shot in the UFC, and I hope it's against someone, more level on his playing field, so he can kind of showcase some of the stylistic things that make him fun to watch. But not really.
What were the two nicknames? He's Huggy Bear, and what's the other one? He has like a double nickname.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think God, they said it on the broadcast too. I don't want to say it was Big Beast or something, but it was something, I don't know. I can't really remember.
I mean, clever. I liked. I mean, I stuck with the Huggy Bear end of it. It's Beast Boy though, the other end of it.
That's it. That's a DC reference. That's kind of fun, but
Huggy Bear's better.
Yeah, I mean, he can be a really stylistic and action-packed fighter. And you saw that in this fight. Like you can't say the guy didn't go after it against a guy that was so much taller and bigger than him. But it's just like the matchup wasn't there for him, and it was really sad when they said like he trained with Overeem when he fought Big Ben, so he really wanted to get that one back, and it was like, oh, that's not gonna happen, Bucko. Sorry. And also, what the fuck is Overeem training with Chris Barnett to fight Big Ben? That was a big mistake right there. Hey, this guy's really tall. Let's find the shortest, stockiest heavyweight in the world, and let's train with him to get you ready for that one. So yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, I'll be honest. There was other fights on this card, but I didn't gamble on them, and I was, not paying attention.
You said Court did good.
Oh, Court McGee. Mike should be here to, speak to his treason. But he bet money against Court McGee. Court McGee, honestly, just looked good everywhere. Hands looked crisp. He was hurting the guy. His grappling looked good. We all know what a Court McGee fight looks like, but this looked like a Court McGee fight from like 2012, 2011, where you're like, okay, we're looking at back end of the top 10 here, maybe as good as 5. He looked really good. It was nice to see. And yeah, the UFC at the Apex, I could have been there, man. Just, answered your phone. I could have happily been there. I don't think they would have let me do it, to be honest.
True. No,
I was arguing that we could get much farther than you would expect. Like if we went and made a concerted effort to get into the building and go to get there, I feel it would take a while for them to say anything until we got there. We would have gotten pretty close. Just saying.
Just act like you belong.
I was I could say stuff to Daniel Cormier, he'll be fine. And maybe not. The UFC, at the Apex, where they'll probably be, I think they're doing this, the next fight night, I'm assuming, is there too. Biggie Boy versus, Augusto Sakai. June 5th. Pardon me. So, that's the next card. There's no card on Memorial Day weekend here, which I find strange. Did anybody see if Bellator's doing one or something? Because I don't think I saw that either.
Didn't check.
Like all the Bellator guys we want to see fight already fought.
I did, and I guess Cyborg won, right, against Leslie Smith.
I did see that because I watched that whole thing because Mike had bet on Leslie Smith.
Well, I'm guessing the line was too
like
lucrative
15 to, it was like 15 to 1 or something like that. He put like $20 on that. Yeah, man, Leslie Smith is real tough.
How long did it go?
Up until the last minute, I think.
Of 5 rounds, because it was for the belt, right?
It was 5 rounds.
Oh, that's quite a beating Leslie Smith had to take then.
Yeah. So that is what. We watched also Valerie Loretta lose. That was a thing. She's the one.
Name's familiar.
She's the one in Bellator who's just basically an Instagram model in addition to being a fighter.
Okay. The name sounds familiar, but
she's the young Latina fighter who shakes her ass on the internet. It's very popular. So that she lost. I was bummed to see Felicia Spencer lose on the UFC card because I like Felicia Spencer a lot, but I guess there's another fighter in this weight class who's got to win. So
it's kind of what they needed if
they probably for the best. So. Yeah, exactly. And it sounds like Tatiana Suarez is coming back from her neck issues, and she's coming back at flyweight, which is. I mean, I thought she was the boogeyman at 115, Steph, but she wants to be the boogeyman at 125. How many wins is she going to have to get for them to just give her a shot at Valentina? Over, under, 0.5.
A fight? She'll take a fight?
She has to win.
I guess one to show she could make the weight.
She can make one weight class up. We got to make sure.
You can make the weight class up.
If they said she's getting a title shot immediately, I don't think people would be that upset. I think we'd all be like, okay.
I mean, I think like we were just saying was that most recent fight with God, what were their names? Blonde fighter and the Brazilian. God, was it Chukagian and forgive me, I'm on the
Arejo
fighter
or something,
Araujo or something like that. Yeah. I think what I say the takeaway was it just shows the gap between the contenders and the champion. Is like that fight was what it was. It was kind of a questionable decision in my eyes, but all it told you is neither of them have anything for Valentina whatsoever. So if you can get a slightly more compelling matchup than that, then may as well just cut to the front of the line.
Yeah, I think they said Lauren Murphy's probably next for Valentina. So if Tatiana wants to fight one fight, and give her a title shot after that. But she's undefeated, I'm pretty sure. It's like 10, 11 wins, I want to say. I'm not positive.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And other news sounds like we're inching closer to the UFC trying to get on that Kayla Harrison train. Trying to get, because Kayla Harrison wants to fight out the season. They have seasons in PFL. Again, I appreciate PFL doing something different. And I think she's fighting at 55, though, so I don't know how this is going to work.
Yeah, that could be tricky.
Amanda can't keep going up. Amanda can't keep going up.
Ooh. If they put another belt on the line, though, Bobby,
Amanda going for 3? Amanda wants 3 belts.
3 and be the only person ever to get 3 and probably just have to fight one fight against her. She might take it.
They just, you know what? The UFC just booked is get a scrub first for Amanda to fight at 155 so she gets to 3.
No.
And then she can lose to Kayla.
No, Bobby. This is Overeem territory where you just ask for the belt enough and they'll just give it to you. It's just a good storyline right there. The only person to get 3 belts, that'd be badass. But I mean, there's
Mandy 3 belts. This has a nice ring to it.
Oh, yeah.
Amanda
there's just not enough talent at 45 to think that they could, build much of anything at 55. But we'll see. That would be interesting. That'd be intriguing.
Other news: Diego Sanchez has cut ties with Joshua Fabia, and Joshua Fabia said a lot of bad things about Diego afterwards. And here's to us never having to say Joshua Fabia's name ever again.
He was a real scorned lover in this one, or it was just like
I just remember when Donald Cerrone said that this, like Donald Cerrone being a tool, but Donald Cerrone's like, oh, he's being influenced by a lover, and I'm like, that's the only way this would make sense to me is if these guys were dating. Like I would be like, oh, it's a bad relationship.
There's
like,
some kind of romantic.
She's toxic. He's a real Joshua is real toxic in this relationship. That's the only way this made sense to me. But yeah, they ain't shit going on though. I'm gonna peek at MMA news in a second here. I mostly want to know if, like, sometimes you just wake up in the morning and you go on the internet and they tell you there's a MODOK TV show on Hulu. Yeah. And you're like, where the fuck did that come from? And I feel we ain't never once said there was a MODOK TV show coming. So I don't know when you guys knew about it. Yeah, when did that happen? What, did you guys know? Like, when?
Mm-hmm. I knew it was coming. Me and Mark were talking about it.
Did anybody watch it?
I watched 5 episodes or so. And I'll discuss it in our next segment, stuff we like.
Yeah, sure I mean, that's what we're getting. Right well, I wanted to ask was, I mean, let me just ask, is Patton Oswalt playing Patton Oswalt, or is Patton Oswalt playing MODOK? Because sometimes Patton Oswalt is just playing Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt is not really flexing any voice muscles, if that's what you're asking. Okay. I mean, if we just want to get into stuff we like, because I mean, I think we have
fuck all. Yeah, go ahead. I'll look for news.
Yeah, because I got a couple things, and one of them is MODOK. You know, we did. I mean, Bobby, it's not unfair that you haven't really heard of it. When it got announced, I think like a couple months ago, or at least that's when I first heard about it. It was very strange. I mean, the concept itself is basically an animated comedy show. I think done by the same group that does Robot Chicken, because the animation style is very reminiscent. I mean, honestly, even the humor is. And I think what threw me the most was that it's not on Disney Plus, so it's like Marvel licensed out this property to be produced and shown on. Well, I mean, I guess Hulu is kind of owned by Disney, so it's not like, you know, it went to Netflix or something. But it just seemed odd that it was a Hulu original. Not.
I mean, Disney doesn't own the whole thing yet. So that's an eventual thing.
I don't know who MODOK falls underneath, but I thought it would probably be them.
Yeah, I mean, the end game is they will own Hulu, but there's like a process. But yeah, it's not on Disney. Yeah. It's weird.
You know, there's some shenanigans. But that being said, I enjoyed the MODOK show. I don't think it's like fantastic. I think honestly, it's. I'm pretty sure it's done by the Robot Chicken guys, and I think this show's kind of like that. Like, if that sense of humor is up your alley, I think you'll love the show. There's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of plays at humor, and I don't think it's rarely ever like cringeworthy, but I'm not like laughing the whole time. But pretty much in every episode, there'll be 1 or 2 zingers that get me, and I'm like, okay, that was pretty clever or interesting. And MODOK himself is kind of he's weird because he's somewhat known, I think, in like the Marvel. I mean, he's obviously hasn't been in any of the movies, but he was in like the Marvel vs. Capcom game, and I think there is some. I think people do kind of know who he is, but not super well. So I think it was an interesting character choice. I do like a lot of the voice actors they got around the show. I think like John Hamm plays Iron Man, and there's the show does enough interesting stuff where I'm compelled to continue watching it, but I think it falls a little bit short of what I was hoping it would be, especially with, you know, when you get Patton Oswalt. I was very excited for him to see what he does with it, and I think he does a fine job. But yeah, Bobby, like, there's no mistaking that it's Patton Oswalt the first time he talks. Like, there's very little like him flexing any muscles. You're muted, Bob.
He was in that one show I remember, and Steph was talking
Agents
about.
of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
No, I mean that was
because he was
when he was on. Was it The Boys? When he was voicing the fucking Gills. Am I making this up? Wasn't that Patton Oswalt?
Oh no, I think you're right.
Yeah, that was in the.
I remember Stefan's.
The Boys.
Yeah, Stefan had some like decent criticism of just like, the fuck was that? It was just like, it took everybody out of it. Like, what? This is Patton Oswalt here now? Just being Patton Oswalt.
Oswalt was singing as like a dead fish or something.
Yeah, I'm like, what are we?
It was kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm like, we're just gonna do 5 minutes of Patton Oswalt in here? Like, what's happening? Yeah, that's what I was curious about.
At the end of the day, I would definitely recommend checking it out. You know, at least watch an episode or two, and you know, I mean, they're like what 22.
Hey man, I need something new on Hulu.
So I mean, they're not like, it's not a huge ask. I think there's 10 episodes in this season. Like I said, I think I'm like halfway through, and I've enjoyed it. You know, it hasn't knocked my socks off. You know, I think I had kind of higher expectations. I was really hoping the comedy would hit a little bit more for me. And like I said, sometimes it does, but a lot of times, you just hear jokes and it's like, you kind of have that thing where it's like, well, that's clever or funny, but doesn't actually make you laugh out loud. So it kind of misses the mark in some of that. But I still, overall enjoyed it and would recommend checking it out at the very least. I did watch the Army of Dead Netflix movie. That is Zack Snyder's latest flick or whatever. And I enjoyed it. It is for a zombie movie, and especially when you think about when you see trailers for it where it just seems like it's a action comedy. The runtime is pretty long at 2.5 hours. But overall, it was just a fun flick, Again, there was definitely certain scenes and stuff that I think do fall a little flat. Steph was talking earlier before he started the podcast that he thinks Dave Bautista is one of the better to make the jump from pro wrestling to acting. I think there's some scenes in here that maybe will have him question that statement. But to your point, Stefan, you were saying that he actually tries to play characters, whereas The Rock is really just The Rock.
That's what I give him credit for. Dave Bautista is not playing Dave Bautista in movie films. He's at least attempting a character who just happens to be a burly, jacked guy. That is Dave Bautista.
Yeah. And to this film, I think he does a totally fine job. I think there are just certain aspects of this film that I think play off a lot well. I think the comedy is done well. I think the overall premise, again, I'm someone who isn't burnt out of zombies. That's always been a genre I've been very interested in. So when I heard about this movie, I was like, oh, I'm still kind of on board. But I do feel, I think with the movie falters the most is where it tries to pull at dramatic heartstrings and stuff like that. There are some moments where they're trying to have a dramatic scene with Dave Bautista and some actress. And I don't think he has that kind of range. I don't think he's that kind of actor that can really pull off getting me emotionally connected. But when it is just running around and shooting zombies, and I think the premise of the movie and kind of how they built this zombie apocalypse like thing, because I think what's interesting about it is that there was an outbreak. This is just the first 10 minutes. There was an outbreak, but it's been contained and it's just in Vegas. So all the other zombie movies, it's spread, it's a thing that everyone's worried about, and this one is just well, they bordered off Vegas and there's a bunch of zombies there, and then the movie kind of it basically plays into, it's a zombie movie and it's also a heist movie. I think the heist stuff plays pretty well when Dave Bautista is doing his Rick and Morty, the son of the bitch I'm in scenes. Those are fun and interesting and compelling.
Sounds like a real Escape from New York.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, there's absolutely, some of that's very good. I think the comedian Tig, I can't remember her last name, Tig Navarro. Yeah, I think she does a really great job. She had to
be CGI'd into the movie because they had to take out Chris D'Elia when he got Me Too'd. She didn't see anybody else. They just digitally put Tig Notaro in all of the Chris D'Elia scenes, and they do not look that similar. But they did
a good job. I couldn't really. I mean, there's a lot of scenes where she is alone. So
I'm telling you, that's what happened there in that one. She had to do it.
For whatever wizardry they had to do to pull that off, I think they did pretty well because I thought she did a good job. I think she had a lot of the fun one-liners. She was definitely the comedic relief, and I think she does a good job there.
You said that Batista is not really doesn't have that kind of range. Is some of that Zack Snyder doesn't have that kind of range either? Because I'm trying to think which Zack Snyder movie gave me any sort of real conversation between anybody.
That's not unfair. Because I think the scenes where he's having these revelations with other characters, the writing kind of.
I mean, Snyder is a fine filmmaker, but he's not fucking Aaron Sorkin when it comes to dialogue. Yeah,
to the things you kind of generally pointed out about some of the slight cons, those are kind of critiques at large with Snyder. Is he takes himself very seriously. Like a lot of his movies are very grim, right? The emotional connect can be missing. And coming off of the 4-hour Justice League movie, he's a guy who a lot of people you could probably trim off some of this in the editing room. You just don't want to.
Yeah, but overall, again, another film that would be I recommend checking it out and watching it. It's a fun watch, and it's an entertaining watch. When you're watching it, I think that the first couple of times I was like, that seems weird. Why wouldn't why did that happen? And Christine's like, you just can't question things in this. Just watch it. And I was like, you're right. Questioning this is not going to help this film at all. It's just going to hinder it. Lastly, I did want to mention, I did catch up on Silicon Valley, and I thought that was, again, like a pretty fun sitcom that I kind of dropped off a couple seasons ago. I do think it was unfortunate that, what's his name? TJ Miller. Yeah, got into all the, being a shithead that he is, to get kind of banned off that show, because I think it really does hurt without him. He was kind of a focal point in that series. I mean, and I think, for whatever you want to think about him, I think he has some comedic credit, and I think he can kind of control a scene and make it interesting. And when they lost that, and they tried to like get around it, and how they wrote him off in the show was just kind of weird. But overall, I enjoyed Silicon Valley.
It's really hard for a show to recover from that. Even if you're like an ensemble like they are, like, and this isn't a show I particularly like that much, but that 70s show, I remember trying to watch it when like Dude bounced, character,
the main guy,
Foreman.
Yeah.
And it's not like he wasn't the only character, because he wasn't even. He was probably like the 5th most popular character on that show,
right?
Because there's Hyde and Fez and all that stuff. But I remember watching it, I'm like, this is a weird fucking show without this dude. Why are they still hanging out in his parents' house? Like, what's going on here?
That's true. To kind of wrap Silicon Valley, though, I mean, I think that hurt it, but I think what hurt it more than even that was it definitely fell into the tropes that some of the other drama comedies HBO has done kind of gets into, and it kind of reminded me a lot of Entourage, where it's just like the same shit's happening over and over again. Just like where it was Vinny had to make a movie. It's just like, oh no, we might lose the company for like the 20th
Oh my God, yeah.
Every episode, they're on the verge of bankruptcy and having no
app
money.
Doesn't have any funding. Hey guys, we got some funding.
that was almost exactly it. Like every episode, something falls through because they do something stupid, and then the next episode, this other person's going to fund us. Or
I think like HBO has always done such a good job in the past of like shows ending when it needed to end, if not earlier than it needed to end. I always said that like Showtime is the channel where you get fucking 8 seasons of Weeds when you got about 2 seasons of ideas. And HBO has always felt like did a good job of ending shit on time. I feel that is not necessarily the case anymore with a lot of these shows.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, Bobby. Like that, if that was true,
that was like, yeah, that's gone. Well, because like Silicon Valley, I mean, when it started, I remember thinking like, this is like, we live here. Like, this is such a good send up of that, like, of the culture of Silicon Valley. It was eerily accurate.
Yeah.
And, like, I mean, the dick to floor ratio whole thing with, like, the end of the first season, that
middle in, middle out, Bobby.
Yeah, that might be, like, top 5 thing they've ever put on HBO, period. And it just, like, it had too many seasons. And eventually I'm just like, all right, man, we're done here. Like, I got everything I'm gonna get out of this,
Yeah, so I mean, finishing up, it was still again just as a background noise kind of sitcom. It was totally fine and adequate, and I still found it interesting. But yeah, definitely, the same arcs going over and over again. Like they're losing the company. This guy's screwing you over for like the 20th time. It's just like, oh, okay, I get it. But it was still, entertaining enough. So that's what I got this week.
I'm gonna go. Has anybody else watched Jupiter's Legacy now? Is it just me and Mike still?
No, I do still want to watch it, but I haven't at this point. So it's like,
know what it is, man? It's like there's like a hot minute where you're gonna watch something like where it's part of the cultural zeitgeist.
Yeah, that's
where you got about 2 weeks, and now you're like, you think like, you can't go on the internet and not hear about this. Now you're fine. No one's gonna talk about this fucking show until the second season.
I don't have any spoilers. I barely know what it's about.
Yeah.
But
honestly, I want you guys to watch it because I'm just like, how am I the guy who's finished? I know it's not based on a specific. I mean, actually, it is based on a graphic novel, but it's not one. It's not a big like. It's not a Marvel thing. It's not a DC. It's not a big. They're characters we don't know. We never read this book. How am I the fucking? I know Mike watches everything, but I'm like, how am I the one to finish this and you two haven't? And I kind of want you guys to watch it just so I can talk to you about it. I
haven't heard a clear. It's good. Everything I've heard is a mixed bag, which is one of those things that makes you like not eager to pick up.
Let me tell you this:
not familiar with.
You know how Bobby lives in the world of most things are between 3 and 7 on the scale. We're talking around close to 7 is what I'm getting at here. There's parts where you're like
to Umbrella Chronicles or Academy or whatever.
I like Umbrella Academy. Umbrella Academy has got so many people in it that enough of them make me happy that I put aside my dislike of the big oafish dude, and Diego, who Stefan hates.
Yeah, so because it's funny you bring that one up because I'm the one who hates Umbrella Academy the most.
No, I mean,
I want to like it the most.
Listen, it's not that honestly. Like with a lot of the, I'm comparing it to the Netflix Marvel shows where you're like, this shit could have been 8 episodes. Why is it 13? With this one, I'm just like, okay, 8 episodes. I kind of wish you told me more about some of this. I have a lot of questions about your origin story here, but I guess that's better than me being like, wrap it up, Luke. Get back from this fucking lab. We gotta go fight, your brother. Like, we gotta get back to New York. Okay. In that case, mine's gonna be some food recommendations for the town of Las
Vegas. If you enjoyed it, just try to not get too into the weeds.
If you people go to Vegas, go when there's a fight. A fight in Vegas is fun. That's not what I did though. Ate some good food. Lotus of Siam. If you're in Vegas, excellent. You need a reservation. Excellent food. Went to this noodle shop called Magic Noodle. Holy shit. Hand pulled noodles. So delicious. So goddamn delicious. That's one that if the three of us go again, we'll surely go there. And then Sushi Nico. All you can eat sushi. It's important you go to Sushi Nico and not Nico all you can eat sushi, which is 2 doors down. There was a real moment of confusion where 2 of the 3 of us weren't sober either, so we're just like, are we at the right one? And there was an hour wait. We're like,
Bobby, what kind of office shit is this? Is it Alfredo's or pizza by Alfredo's?
It's like we have this. I mean, I'm imagining where we live isn't that special, where you get these like little strip malls where it's all the Asian food in one fucking strip mall, Right. So I'm just like, all right, there's Chinese, Japanese, it's all in one place. And I'm like, okay, both of these say sushi and Nico. And I'm like looking, I'm like, all right, the one we're going to here, this has got an hour wait. This other one, I see a bunch of empty chairs. We're sticking with the one with an hour wait. And I went to an In-N-Out burger because I was with people not from California. And next to it, there was an In-N-Out shop for merch.
Okay, this sells t-shirts.
It was just t-shirts, bumper stickers, some magnets. Was in there for about 14 seconds, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go back to the car.
I often see dogs wearing the paper hat that they sometimes.
Oh, they'll just give you the paper hat. Yeah, that is. I
thought they'd just give you the bumper sticker too, but
I mean, maybe in Vegas. I feel, by the way, the number one does not cost $8.50. In California.
No,
exactly.
No.
That's what I was trying to say. I'm like, this is bullshit. And the guys, Mike and Phil, are just like, what do you mean? Well, I'm like, you don't understand. This shit's like $5-6 tops.
Yeah, I mean, $3 is not a bad price, but
no.
At the Burger King at the Vegas airport, I pay $17 for a Burger King combo there. So, everything's a little inflated in Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, I would walk past that Wendy's we always see, and I'm like, yo, that Frosty is $6. How the fuck you gonna charge $6 for a
highway
Frosty?
Robbery.
That's more than the $5 shake. Come on now. It was interesting to travel. For those of you who have not traveled yet, been vaccinated and traveled, wear your mask while you're traveling. And if you, depending on your airline, I guess, how much shit they give you for leaving your nose exposed. I didn't do that because I'm not an asshole. Wore a mask. I'll tell you this though, like, it's an hour and a half flight, and they come up, they're like, all right, we got 4 drinks. We got Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite, and water. And you can just hold up a 1, 2, 3, or 4 with your hand. This is Southwest. And like, I'm just like, it's an hour and a half. I don't need to drink something on this plane. We'll be okay. And part of me is just like, why do we have an organized time where we all take off our mask? That seems like we're all doing it at once here.
Bobby, I'm just going to comment on your mask thing. This is my own deal, and I can say this confidently now being a fully vaccinated person. But I'll say this. I respect a person more who just doesn't wear a mask versus the person who just leaves their nose out. Because I feel like you're trying to be an asshole when you do that. But if you just don't wear the mask because you're stubborn, at least you're being honest with yourself, I can respect that more. I don't approve of it, but I respect it more.
Exactly. I'll say this: the flight to Oakland, which presumably is all people who live here, those masks were on point, man. Everybody had that shit cinched up. We're like, we know we're flying to a real place. We take this shit seriously.
It's not Magic Land. We're out of the fantasy zone.
And I saw Alex Volkanovski, who's filming Tough, and his team. Nice. And we wanted to take a picture with them, but they were walking kind of fast, and then they went to a pool that cost $30. And me and Mike are like, we are not that interested in Alex Volkanovski to go to this pool for $30.
We do need new drops for our intro.
Yeah, we're just like
extremely dated. So.
We're like, how much is the cameo for Alex Volkanovski to have him do it that way? Yeah, that's all I got. I watch basketball, watch some wrestling, and some fights. Stefan, what do you got this week?
I'll just do quick hitters. You mentioned wrestling. My guy, Eric Bugenhagen, he's been main rostered. I didn't like his name change to Rick Boogs, and they've now changed the spelling of Boogs from Bugez to Boogs. And that just kind of reminds me of boogers, to be honest.
Yes,
and
me too.
So that kind of makes me think he's got a boogie in his nose. So I don't like that, but I'm happy to see him there. He did an electric guitar. He brought back Shinsuke's old theme with the build-up and everything, which I'd been clamoring for a bit, so I was excited to see that. My guys, BTS, breaking all the records again. They did their second full English single, spiritual successor to Dynamite, another kind of very funky song called Butter. Bob, you wanted to chime in?
I did. Well, you were talking about the wrestling. I wanted to ask if you listened to the Iconics podcast.
I did listen to the Iconics
podcast. And are you as devastated? Are you as devastated for yourself as I was for you when we're gonna call her name now, Miss Jessie McKay is married? Because I was like, there goes the wife for Stefan. We're gonna have to go look somewhere else.
It's one of those things. I don't have any real prospects of things. I'm not one of those creepy fans who truly believes it. But there's always that part of you that hopes, right? There's that part.
You're like, that's the one.
She's the single one of the two, and it's like
she's the one. I read that and I'm like, oh man. Poor Stefan.
like Mike would know who she is, but there's this J-pop artist named Namie Amuro. She's the one who got me into like Asian music back when we were in like high school. One of the biggest pop stars in Japan. But here's the thing: she had 2 kids. She got divorced at 38, and I'm like, if there's ever a time, this is it. She's older. She's had kids. Stefan never had it. He had a less than 0 chance when she was at the height of her career. At this point, it might be just slightly above 0. Like I said, I'm not hoping for a real thing, but you like to imagine a little bit. But the Off Her Chops podcast, that is fun. Now that you mention it, if you knew who the Iconics were, they're very fun, charismatic personalities. I know both of them are eventually going to get back into wrestling, but it's fun hearing them talk. I always caught them when they were on Up, Up, Down, Down, like whenever they did it. You really saw that Billie Kay, now Jessica McKay, she was really the star of the two. She has the funniest stories. She has the most personality. So if this is a venue for them, it's great. I'll tune in every week. On the anime front, Mike's not here for me to talk about this, but I finished Jujutsu Kaisen. Mark, there's a thing in shonen anime you'll be familiar with is, the trope, how they always talk, how they always explain things, how there's always sudden backstories.
Break it down, yes.
Yeah, that's part of what drags the shows on. I got a kick out of, as I was watching the show, so Jujutsu Kaisen gives a canonical reason for them doing that, and that's, so they deal with, like, curse magic, and you apply these curse powers, but if you explain your curse to the victim, it actually makes the curse stronger. If the victim understands the curse, it'll then propagate faster, or it'll kill them sooner. And I'm like, it's dumb, but the fact that they thought, like, let's give him a reason for why he's going to explain how his power works to the villain and vice versa. So I just appreciate that it's one of those things, right, like in video games, Mark, where they just bother to include a detail that's normally never included, and you're like, oh, good on them for thinking about it,
It didn't need it, right? It could have completely got away with it without explaining because no one else does, but it's appreciated that you went the extra mile to try to validate why why this is happening.
Why is there a sudden conversation in this life and death fight for all the marbles? But really fun series. The Mike had quoted to me an episode that I wasn't on yet when I first mentioned I started, but now that I can say I saw the baseball episode, Mike, the baseball episode is one of the best episodes in the history of anime, period. And yes, nice pitch.
I do have a question. Is there any jujitsu in this show?
So it's not Jujutsu Kaisen, it is Jujutsu Kaisen, which is very, very close to Jujutsu. And I also thought that's what it would be too. But there are some submission techniques in the fighting. We see some arm bars and a triangle choke. So I guess that counts.
I just want my Hajime no Ippo for other combat sports.
For grappling. You want the grappling.
I mean, and there's grappler Baki, but that's just Dragon Ball with validating that type of violence, which doesn't really get me going as much. But okay, fair enough.
But yeah, back to my other quick hits. Like I said, I mentioned BTS. They got the new single "Butter." Love it, funky song, breaking all the YouTube records. They were on the Billboard Music Awards. I think they swept the 4 awards they were nominated for. On Mark, this could be your kind of experience with BTS. On Wednesday, McDonald's is dropping the BTS meal, which is a special meal. It is a 10-piece chicken nuggets, medium fries, medium Coke. But the whole spiel is what you're getting are special limited edition Korean McDonald's sauces. So we're getting the sweet chili and what is called Cajun. I believe it is hot mustard mixed with chili and peppers. So special Korean packaging. Basically, you're getting the Korean sauce packets that we don't normally get here. So, try some limited flavors.
As you know, I am a sucker for the promotional Shack Attack-like promotion going on at a fast food restaurant, so I might just have to try that out. Even though I have little to no knowledge of BTS. Right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes. But like I said, this could be your foray. You won't know what a single member of them look like, but you can see what Korean flavors they approved for their McDonald's.
Are there 10 members in the group?
So there's 7.
Okay, well, it would have been better if they had 7 nuggets then, I guess. So I can pretend like I'm eating each member as I go through, but what could have been?
I got one last thing. Because are either of you familiar with this wrestler called Danhausen?
Yes, because he's on like the drop for Masked Man, and I know he paints his face, and he's kind of a joke gimmick, right? He's like,
so I don't
more
entirely
of a meme than he is a wrestler.
Well, so here's the thing. This is the description I've heard. A demonic tooth fairy possessed Conan O'Brien discovered The Simpsons and money, and like he doesn't like cursing. He says no swearing a lot. He paints his face. I'm having a hard time describing this, but I feel Mark would really get on board with this guy, is what I'm getting at here. He also was on Conan O'Brien's podcast because Conan has like the podcast, Conan Needs a Friend or whatever.
Needs Friends, yeah. I used to listen to that.
And he did one. He was doing the thing where like a fans can take questions, but he started talking to Danhausen, and Danhausen's like, yeah, my gimmick, half of it is kind of you. And I think, and he calls all of his fans the Fanhausens. I don't know. I don't know how to describe this well without saying I just think Mark would like it.
Is he AEW?
No, he's on, I want to say Ring of Honor.
Oh, okay. Digging deeper.
No, I'm just like, look up Danhausen on YouTube. He has a show. He had Xavier Woods on there. Name of his YouTube show is Love That Danhausen. Yeah, I don't know how to describe this well, but I was watching him interview Woods, and I'm like, I think Mark would get on board with this guy. Kind of old-timey talk, too. I don't know. The whole package, I'm like, Mark would, if this was a wrestler when we were kids, this would be one of Mark's guys for sure. Anyway, that's all I got this week. Oh, besides the news that just broke, that Duho's coming back, guys.
Oh, who's he fighting? Or is he just coming back?
He's fighting, I don't know who he is, but Duho's apparently 30 years old. So he's fighting at the end of July. So look forward to Duho.
Yeah,
I can look forward to that. Yeah. Man, well, that got he was so exciting for like a year, and then he just, I don't know what happened. Did he have to go to the service, the military service?
He was losing a lot, and he had service.
Yeah, because he hasn't won in 5 years.
Yeah.
So, anyway, all right, boys and girls, we're going to be back.
I wasn't done. Bobby just kind of interrupted my.
Oh, I thought you were done. I'm sorry. I thought you were done. I'm sorry.
You came in.
I apologize.
You came in straight up mid-sentence. I didn't even.
Oh, I thought you were done with your quick hits. Go ahead, man.
But my last quick hit, I guess, now I'll be done after this, is with the recent news that my favorite childhood game show, Legends of the Hidden Temple, is getting revamped and being brought back. Which, one, I don't know the full details of, and I'll be straight up. They should not bring it back for children. It absolutely should not be revamped for children audiences. It should be revamped for our generation who actually knew what that show was to compete on it as adults. But it's being brought back, and you know how your phone is just listening to things you talk about, so it recommends you things you don't even search. It'll just recommend something you said in conversation. I got recommended this YouTube channel that I've been enjoying some videos on called Defunct Land, and essentially what they do are like 20-minute documentaries on game shows from when we were kids. There was like Carmen Sandiego, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego was on them. They talked about Guts. I was watching one about WMAC Masters. Mark, do you remember that show? the Universal
I
Studios
had
martial
Cyborg,
arts
the
guys.
ninja.
But it was also kind of really scripted, so it was weird at the same time. But I watched the one on Legends of the Hidden Temple, and it's actually just fun. It's really knowledgeable. It's really researched. They go into the history of it. They give you stats. They talked about, like, Bob, what's up?
It is for adults, brother.
Yeah, that's right.
It is for adults. Adults are going to be competitors. Baby. Yeah, it's going to be for adults. It is going to be on CW, though. Mm-hmm. So, you know.
I'm here for it. You know,
I'm going to say it right now, Arrow would kill that shit. That dude's in real good shape. You said Arrow out there? Out of all the pretty boy CW movies, superheroes?
Bobby,
that dude's in shape.
Did you watch Legends of the Hidden? You don't send the cream of the crop. You send awkward kids that have two left feet.
Well, you put him up there. You put the skinny kid who plays Flash. You get all right, Brandon Routh, and then you get
Hidden Temple episode.
Yeah, then you get Supergirl in there. That's where you go. You're good to go.
But some quick stats off the top is the Purple Parrots were the least successful team in the history of the show. The Orange Iguanas made it the most times to the final temple, but they have the same amount of wins as the Purple Parrots, which means they always made it, but they always lost. And the actual most successful team in the history of the show were the Silver Snakes. They had the highest win rate of any team on the show. I really enjoyed it. I put a quote when I was watching it in our kind of group chat. They were talking about the Shrine of the Silver Monkey. And as the narrator put it, despite the puzzle only being 3 pieces and never changing over the history of the show's run, the children had an incredibly difficult time putting it together. And he just showed clip after clip of, like, turn it around, the head is backwards, the head is backwards. And them just fumbling over it. It even had, like, a great sign, you know, like, they're kind of like, you know, it's hard to say goodbye to these shows we love and these eras we grew up in, but none of it will ever be as hard as the Silver Monkey. You know, so 17-minute video. If you have any nostalgia for that show, it'll be a fun trip down memory lane. Like, you know, they talk about Nick Gass and just all those game shows they were on, you know. So if you were a kid who watched it in the 90s, Defunct Land will be full of, like, a treasure chest of memories to kind of go through. So check it out on YouTube.
Right on. All right, we'll be back next week to talk about the Biggie Boy against Augusto Sakai. 2 heavyweights with only 2 losses apiece. We got Walt Harris and Marcin Tybura. Ponzinibbio's on this card. Man, Ponzinibbio, what happened? We were going to get a welterweight title shot at one point.
And not to degrade these guys, but it really seems like a parade of losers on this next card.
Not to degrade these guys. Bunch of fucking losers on this one, guys.
Hey, you know what? Sometimes in the fighting game tournaments, loser bracket is just as fun as the champions bracket, but we all know what we're looking at.
Yeah, so that is the. So yeah, that's going to be at the Apex, which again, they could have had me there. The following week, though, we got the double title fights. This is going to be a great card.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's 3 title fights. We got 3 5-round fights.
Yeah, Izzy versus Vittori, 5-rounder for the middleweight strap. Figueiredo versus Moreno in a rematch of what was definitely the male fight of the year last year, without question, I think, because it came down to that fight and Whaley and Joanna for fight of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then Leon Edwards, Nate Diaz. I almost bet like $50 on Nate Diaz. But I'm just like, man,
it's still hard to collect when you're not there. It's not fun if you can't go.
Well, I mean, I'm just like, let me just come back here and I'll use like betonline.ag or some shit like that. I don't know what everybody else uses. Damian Maya, Bilal Muhammad, and Paul Craig versus former ESPN host Jameel Hill. No, it's not her. It's somebody else. Jamahal Hill. And Stefan's guy Eric Anders on the undercard. Stefan's guy Eric Anders has replaced Sam Cecilia as Mark, when it was Mark's guy, because I don't know what Sam Cecilia does anymore. So Eric Anders.
A question of this running gag, Mark. Did you at any point ever like Sam Cecilia?
I think he was.
I probably at one point said I like him as an action fighter. I didn't.
I'm not even waiting for you to tell me you like Anders.
I at no point have ever expressed any like of Eric Anders, but it's that he's like a quarter Filipino that I've been associated with him. But I've never expressed any like positive emotion or feedback towards that guy.
Oh, that's about every now and then I'll just like bring up Eddie Edward Foliang, I think. Because I think it's Filipino.
But
no, I'll bring him up hoping you have some gems, and I'm looking over and I'm like, Stefan is not paying attention to this motherfucker.
He was the Philippines champion of that sport that Kung Lee invented, where you can kind of do rolling leg scissor takedown. What was that, Sam Show, Mark? What was that Kung Lee sport that only he did?
Show.
But Foliang, he does that too.
Nice.
By the way, I've been saying for like 3 weeks that Valentina's fighting Lauren Murphy yet, and I'm just looking and Lauren Murphy's fighting JoJo Calderwood on that card.
Okay.
So Valentina might be fighting the winner of that fight. Yeah, that's a number one contender fight for sure. There are 15 fucking fights on that card according to Wikipedia. I feel like can't be right because with 3 title fights and 15 fights, the people in Glendale, the Gila River Arena in Glendale, Arizona. I couldn't think of a more random fucking place to send your Nigerian middleweight champion facing an Italian in your main event. What the fuck, man? Anyway, okay. Back next week. Thank you all for listening. Again, we really appreciate it. Mike will be back next week. We should all be here. You have a safe Memorial Day. Enjoy your day off. Get some grilling out there, Enjoy yourselves.
Oh, yeah. We'll be recording on the day. We can all have a piece of barbecue while we record.
I'm gonna get a hot dog. That's what I'm gonna do.
I was thinking hot dog, Rob.
All right, guys. I was Dr. Law. That was Kid Presentable. And that was DJ Mark. See y'all next week. Peace out.
See ya. Cheers.